Good afternoon. I would like to call to order the May 2nd, 2022 meeting of the Charleston County Board of Zoning Appeals, also known as the BZA. The board members that will hear your case tonight are to my right, Ms. Ashfield, Mr. Freeman, to my left, Mr. Borkin, and Ms. Switzer Smalls. And I'm William Ray, the chairperson. We barely had a quorum tonight, so we're quite fortunate to get these members here. We have a lot of members that are out, so we ask that you be patient while we get through all these cases tonight. Staff members present are Ms. Sally Brooks, Mr. Joshua Downing, Ms. Savannah Murray, Ms. Jennifer Stiles, and Ms. Jenny Working. Mr. Kevin Hugie, who's to my right, is our attorney. Because tonight is a public fact-finding meeting, we're in compliance with the Freedom of Information Act and South Carolina Code 6-29-70. 15 days prior to the hearing, an announcement was printed in the Post and Courier. And a sign was posted on the designated property. And a notice was mailed to the applicant's representatives, to the property owners that were at least 300 feet within the property, and to parties of interest. Persons, organizations, and news media have requested declaration of our meeting and have also been notified. Our case rulings of this and any BZA meeting are available to the public for review and inspection during normal business hours at the Charleston County Zoning and Land Development Department. The Board of Zoning Appeal is a quasi-judicial body that has final decision-making authority. Appeals of a zoning-related decision. The BZA is authorized to hear and decide appeals only on zoning-related matters where it is alleged there is an error in the order, the requirement, decision, or determination made by the administrative official in the administration or the enforcement of a zoning-related regulation. A 2/3 vote of the quorum presented is required to overturn the decision of the planning director in an appeal. A special exception. It is an exception issued by the BZA authorizing a particular use in a specified location within the zoning district, upon demonstrating that such use complies with all the conditions and the standards specified by the Zoning and Land Department Regulation Ordinance, better known as ZELDAR. The BZA also must find a special exception meet all 6 of the approval criteria of the ordinance to grant a special exception. A simple majority is required to grant a special exception. We also have a variance. A variance is a relaxation of the BZA's regulation of the ordinance where such action may not be contrary to the public interest and where, to the conditions particular to the property, or the results of the actions or the situation of the application or the applicant, a literal enforcement of the code would result in an unnecessary and undue hardship of such variance is consistent with Section 6-29-680 of the Code of the State of South Carolina with Title 6, Chapter 29. The BZA must find that the variance meets all 7 of the approval criteria of the ordinance in order to grant a variance. A 2/3 vote of the quorum is required to grant the variance. Our purpose tonight is for interested parties to be heard in order to assist the board in gathering evidence pertinent to each case. If a board member feels the BZA needs further information to clarify the case, the board has the authority to subpoena witnesses. It is understood that the rules of your neighborhood, your subdivision are binding, and that we can take no actions to negate their jurisdiction over your property. In addition to your testimony, the board has been presented written information submitted by staff, by the applicant, or by the applicant's representative for each case. This information is now considered evidence and is entered into the permanent record of this body. It is assumed that it is complete, true, and accurate. In addition, we have been presented data that has been assembled by our staff for the purpose of clarifying the location, the applicant's effect on the surrounding property. Our board is empowered to approve with conditions, or deny a special exception or a variance request. We are also authorized to defer a case should there be a need to obtain additional information. The BZA's final decision will be mailed within 10 working days of this public hearing. It will be mailed, certified mail to the applicant and U.S. mail to neighbors and the community of interest that are listed. If an applicant's request is approved, the applicant should contact the Charleston County Zoning and Planning Department staff to discuss the next steps in the process. Variance and special exceptions granted tonight are valid for 12 months after this meeting. A one-year extension, that's a one-year extension, can be granted if construction has been diligently pursued. However, if an applicant's request is disapproved and the applicant wishes to appeal this decision by the board concerning the case, it must be addressed in circuit court. South Carolina Code 6-29-H20 states that an appeal must be filed by the applicant within 30 days of this decision of the board, and it is mailed to them. Failure to file the appeal within a time limit deprives the court of its jurisdiction to hear this matter. Because this is a quasi-judicial body, everything said in this meeting must be true, complete, and accurate. All information provided by the BZA is considered evidence. This board may certify contempt of court if false statements are made either in writing or orally. Each person who wishes to address this body, this august body, will be sworn in by the BZA secretary before the testimony is provided or evidence is provided. In order to expedite this procedure, those who are wishing to speak to this board tonight, we ask that you stand up as a group, and Ms. Workin will present the oath.
Please stand and raise your right hand. I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do? I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Workin. I will now call each case by number. The staff will present facts pertinent to each case limited to 5 minutes. I will then call the applicant. The applicant will stand, state his name and address his current address for the record before presenting testimony pertinent to each case, limited to 5 minutes. I will then ask for those who are speaking in support or those in opposition to each case, and they will follow the same procedure for identifying themselves and are limited to 2 minutes. The applicant will then have a chance to reply to any opposition, limited to 2 minutes. And then the BZA will make a motion to close the case to the public. Finally, the BZA will make a motion concerning the application stating specific findings of facts and conclusion of law. Tonight, we will hear 10 new business applications and cases. Ms. Murray, are we ready? Would you please present case BZA-02-22-00556?
Alrighty. Case BZA 02-22-00556. The applicant and property owners are Scott and Megan Kinney. The property is located at 500 Brailsford Road in the East area. TMS number 764-000426. The variance request is to reduce the required 15-foot interior side setback by 10.5 to 4.5 for an existing accessory building, and a variance to reduce the required 50-foot front street side setback by 49 feet to 1 foot for an existing accessory structure. Here is section 4.9 of the ordinance requiring the 50-foot front street setback and the 15-foot interior side setback. Here's a zoning map of the subject property showing the subject property as well as the adjacent properties in AGR zoning district. Here is a zoomed in aerial. A zoomed out aerial. So the 1.8 acre subject property currently contains 3 existing structures, a 1-story bungalow, an accessory building, and an accessory structure. The accessory building predates aerial imagery and no permits were obtained before the structure was erected. The accessory structure was also placed without permits and can clearly be seen on the aerial by 2009. The applicants purchased the property in 2018. Staff conducted site visits on March 14th as well as April 7th. Here is a photo of the accessory building that requires the interior side setback variance. And this is the accessory structure, which is a well house that requires the front setback variance. Here's Brailsford Road. Staff found that this request may meet criteria 1, 2, 3, and 4. It does meet criteria 5, 6, and 7, and we have no conditions. Here is a copy of the survey/site plan. Here is it zoomed in. And here's the plat. Any questions of staff?
Does any board member have a question of staff? Thank you, Ms. Burke.
Thanks.
Is the applicant available? Please come forward. Please, one at a time, please. Please come forward. State your name and address for our record. Please speak clearly in the mic, please, sir.
My name is Scott Kinney. The current address we live at is 502 Brailsford. 500 Brailsford is what we're here for.
Thank you, sir. Please tell us why we should approve your application.
My wife would do a better job at that because she's done all the research. However, we are just asking for a variance for this house that has already existed when we purchased it. It is an unfinished home that we'd like to finish to be able to live in and use the front house for elderly parents who will eventually one day live with us.
Okay. Is that it?
I don't know what else you're asking for.
We
I'm
might
sorry.
give your wife a chance at
Yeah, she's
making
much
a
better
little
at
bit
this.
better. Any board members have a question of this applicant? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Send your wife now. Now we have high expectations of you now.
Should I state my name first?
Yes.
Megan Kinney, 502 Brailsford Road, and I'm here about the 500 Brailsford. I don't know that I have anything to add. We bought the house in 2018. These structures already existed. We're still kind of piecing information together from our neighbors who know much more about the property and the neighborhood than we do, and they're actually here tonight. But yeah, these structures existed before we got there. So the second house, the plan was just as my husband said, was for us to be able to live in the house that we're here about, and the house that we're living in would be for elderly family members. So that's why we're here.
Okay. Do we have anyone on the board that has a question?
I have one.
Yes, sir, Mr. Freeman.
I was curious about your property line dispute. You said you're unaware of the variance issue is unused by the owners. They are probably unaware exactly where the line is.
Yes, when we moved in, and as a matter of fact, recently I had a conversation with our neighbor after the survey was done, and when I told her what the survey said, she said, well, that's wrong. Because from her understanding, the property line was over closer to their house than what they found on the survey. So, when we moved in, we were not required to get a survey when we moved in. So all we had to go by was the GIS map online.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone else? Thank you. for your testimony. Do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Do we have anyone? Yes, ma'am. You come to speak in favor?
Good afternoon. My name is Constance Garrett. I'm from McClennisville, South Carolina, and I live on Bracewood Road. She is my neighbor.
What is your
And I was wondering why I'm
What's your
here.
address again, please?
504 Bracewood Road,
Thank you.
right next to her. Okay, the purpose I'm here tonight because I received this letter, and I was wondering, I said, gosh, I get me a letter, I already pay my tax way before time. But now I see what we here for. This, like she said, the house were there already, you know, and it's close together. So only thing she need is a permit for her light. You know, that was the only thing. And it would be good if it is okay for a permit, because we all right there in the same community.
Do we have anyone that has a question, Ms. Young Lady?
No, sir.
Thank you for your testimony. Do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. Joanna Stevens, 522 Brailsford Road. I lives right next door to, that's my mom who just spoke. So I'm in that same little area of property. And pretty much she kind of, the Kennedy family kind of grandfathered all that stuff that came in when they first purchased that property. So we just pretty much here to support them because it's not really their fault, because they didn't know that the lines and everything was all kind of the way, because it was grandfathered in. It was stuff that was there before they came and other adjustments. The second house that they're talking about is because when Jim Walter built that land, when my great-grand aunt, before she passed, had that land, Jim Walter built that second house on the round property. So that's how that house got inherited in there. So she's passed now, and so is the granddaughter, who the house was supposed to have gone to, has passed too. And then a neighbor bought it before them. And then when the neighbor bought it, he tried to do a little bit of the same research too. So I guess he kind of got a little tangled out, got it fixed up, and sold it. And now the Kennedys, they're really good neighbors, and they got the inherit of it, the stake. So I'm just here for support and pretty much to figure out what it was all about.
Okay. Thank you for your testimony. Do we have anyone that has any questions of the applicant? Not the applicant, but the supporter? No? Thank you so very much for your testimony.
You're welcome.
Do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Do we have anyone to speak in opposition? Do we have anyone to speak in opposition to this application? Very good. This case is closed to the public. At this time, we have a motion to approve. Any discussion? Any questions, staff? So at this time, I need a motion to either approve or deny this case. First one, go right ahead. We got a long night.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to make a motion that we approve the application for the variances in BZA case 02-22-00556, based upon staff's review of the application and testimony of the applicant and those in support. I find that it meets all 7 of the criteria for a variance, that in fact it meets criteria number 1. There are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to this particular piece of property. It is a piece of property that has existing structures that were already on it that were not permitted before the applicant purchased the property, and they're now trying to come into compliance. And so it meets that criteria. Criteria 2, these conditions not generally apply to other property in the vicinity due to the nature of these pre-constructed structures were there. That's probably not consistent with other property in the area. meets criteria 2. Criteria 3, that these conditions, because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance of this particular piece of property would effectively prohibit unreasonably restrict utilization of the property. I find that it meets that criteria. The houses were, again, pre-existing prior to them buying the property and had been there for some time. Criteria 4, the authorization of the variance will not be a substantial detriment to the adjacent property or the public good, and the character in the zoning district will not be harmed by granting the variance. That is evidenced by the support of the neighbors themselves being here. And again, it is consistent with other property in the area. In that regard, it meets criteria 5. The Board of Zoning Appeals shall not grant a variance, in effect of which would be to allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district, to extend physically nonconforming use of land, or to change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. It meets that criteria. Criteria 6, the need of the variance does not result in the applicant's own actions. Clearly, they didn't construct either of these buildings, and they were subsequent owners since those buildings had been constructed. So this is not of their own making. Meets that criteria. Criteria 7, granting of the variance does not substantially conflict with the comprehensive plan or purposes of the ordinance. I find that it is not, so it meets that criteria. And no conditions. That's my motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? I saw your hand, but I heard him first.
I'm sorry.
That's good. So we have a second. Any other questions? Discussion? All right, let's bring it to a vote. All those in favor of approving this application, please indicate by saying aye and raising your right hand.
Aye.
Well, it's unanimous. It rules. Congratulations. Your application has been approved within 10 business days. You will get information from staff letting you know the next steps in the process. Once again, congratulations and good day. One administrative thing, you'll notice behind us we have monitors. You can see the time that you have. Please make sure that you adhere to the time that's on the clocks. We have monitors in front of us, so we won't be looking behind, so we know what's going on. And for those individuals, I see that we have a lot of individuals who have just come in. If you by some means want to speak before this body, you will have to be sworn in. There's a lot of people that came in after we had the swearing in. Okay, so the next case we have tonight is case BZA-03-22-0563, and it will be done by Ms. Working.
And I wanted to add to that too, to make sure that if you're going to speak, that you sign in, or if you decide later to speak, then sign in before you leave.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Okay. The applicant, Craig Munson, on behalf of the property owner, Kevin Munson of Tiger Holdings 98 LLC, is requesting a variance to reduce the required 35-foot OCRM, Office of Ocean and Coastal Resource Management, critical line buffer at 1521 Murphy's Island Court, and that's TMS number 617-14-00005 in the east area of Charleston County. More specifically, the applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the required 35-foot OCRM critical line buffer by 32.67 to 2.33 at the closest point for a portion of the proposed pervious driveway, and to reduce the required 35-foot OCRM critical line buffer by 2.25 feet to 32.75 at the closest point for a portion of the proposed steps. So this is just the ordinance requirements for that. The subject property contains a single-family home that is currently under construction. A zoning permit for the home was issued in December 2021. The applicant contacted me a few months ago to find out if I could administratively approve the proposed steps to be relocated into the buffer. I reviewed the steps and determined that a BZA variance would be necessary. And then that's when I discovered that the driveway was erroneously approved by the permitting staff. So there was a mistake made with the driveway location. The side entry garage is already under construction as approved, and the driveway exists. The driveway will be constructed using impervious materials. So this is zoomed in so you could see better the location of they're moving the steps. So like I said, they have a permit. They already are building the structure. They were just wanting to relocate the steps. And this is the zoning map. The subject property and adjacent properties are all located in the rural residential RR zoning district in Phase 1 of the Paradise Island subdivision, which was platted in 1998. Charleston County adopted required setbacks and buffers from the OCRM critical line in 2001. This is a zoomed-in aerial of the property and zoomed out. And some photographs of the driveway and the house under construction. And here's Murphy's Island Court. Let's see. For some additional information I had, there is a little history on this property as well. In 2005, the planning director reduced the 50-foot setback to the 35-foot OCRM critical line buffer. So that's why we're starting at the 35 in this situation. And then a previous owner requested a variance that was approved in August 9th, 2005. And that was a reduction of 35 feet to 10 feet to 25. So, but that was a different applicant. I just wanted to point that out. Let's see. As far as the criteria, we stated that it meets 1, 2, 3, and 5, and that it may meet 4, 6, and 7. We had a couple of conditions. Should you choose to approve this, you can approve with conditions, or deny the application. The first condition, prior to commencing construction, silt fencing shall be installed along the critical line. The silt fencing shall be maintained for the duration of the construction. 2, the applicant shall use stormwater mitigation measures such as the use of rain barrels or rain gardens to reduce the flow of stormwater into the marsh. 3, the driveway shall be constructed using pervious materials. And 4, the encroachment area shall be limited to the footprint areas shown on the submitted site plan. Have any questions for me? This is again the
Does anyone on the board have a question?
plat.
Thank you, Ms. Working. All right, is the applicant available? Yes, sir. Please come forward. Please state your name and address, and please tell us why we should approve your application, sir.
Okay. My name is Craig Munson. My address is 2226 Clay Mill Lane, Mount Pleasant, and the zip is 29466. Okay? Just want to make a few very quick comments. First, as Ms. Working had stated, our building permit was approved several months ago. As a part of the process to get the building permit, we did have to submit a site plan showing the placement of the house in the driveway. Based on the approved building permit, we have already started construction. This possible need for a variance for the driveway came to light when we decided to make a minor change to the house itself. We decided to move the steps coming off the rear of the house to the side of the house. Off the rear of the house, there was no issue, but off the side of the house where we decided we wanted to place them, they do encroach on the 35-foot buffer by 2 feet. So out of an abundance of caution and not wanting to cut any corners, we spoke to Ms. Working to see if we did need a variance for this 2-foot encroachment. And she mentioned that we did. So that's why I'm here. I also wanted to make sure that it was mentioned, and Ms. Working has already said this, that the previous owners of this property did make a similar request to what we are asking for today, and they were granted approval. Their request was a little bit more involved than ours in that they were actually requesting that their home or house encroach by 10 feet into the buffer area. We were very careful on the placement of our house. We went through a lot of pain to make sure that we were within the limits and exactly where we were supposed to be. And then the driveway, of course, was a different matter. But since the building permit was approved, we didn't really think it was an issue. It has always been our intention, though, that the driveway would be constructed from pervious concrete. I have somewhat become an expert in pervious concrete, but pervious concrete does allow water to run through it. There will be no runoff as a result of this, so there will be no issues with any environmental problems from our plan for where we want to put the driveway. The fifth thing and last thing I wanted to say is that we really have no other options. We've already started construction of the house. The property is somewhat unique in its shape, and it is very long. It's also very narrow. It is right up against a marsh on the one side that's in question where we want to put the driveway. And, like I say, we are very careful with the placement of the house. In the driveway, since it has a side load garage, which is required by the homeowners association, we have no other way of getting into the side load garage other than to encroach in the buffer. But we're being very careful. As I said, we are making sure that we are doing something that will not hurt the environment or have any detrimental effects. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Munson.
Okay.
I got a question for you. Maybe I missed it in my readings. What kind of material will you be using for the driveway?
It's a pervious concrete.
Okay. Okay. Just pervious concrete.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else have a question?
Just a quick one.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Munson. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
You heard the 4 conditions that staff recommended. Are you okay with those conditions? Should we approve your? Okay, Thank you. That's all I have.
Anyone else? Thank you, sir, for your testimony. Do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Okay. Do we have anyone to speak in opposition? Anyone to speak in opposition? Okay. This case is closed to the public. Board members, do we have any discussion? Questions of staff? Any more? Therefore, I need a vote. Not a vote, but a motion to either approve or deny this particular case. Okay, Ms. Aspel.
Keep forgetting that's my new last name when you say that. For case BZA 0322000563, I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance based on the following criteria. Number 1, that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the property. Criteria 2, that these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. Criteria 3, that the application of this ordinance would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. Criteria 4, that the authorization of this variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good. Criteria 5, that the BZA is not granting a variance that does not, or the variance that we're granting does not allow use that is not permitted in the zoning district or extend a non-conforming use of land or change zoning district boundaries. Criteria 6, that the need for the variance is not the result of the applicant's actions. Criteria 7, that the granting of the variance does not substantially conflict with a comprehensive plan or the purpose of the ordinance. And then I will add the staff recommended criteria. 1, that prior to construction, fencing shall be installed along the critical line and it will be maintained for the duration of construction. 2, that the applicant will use stormwater mitigation measures such as rain barrels or rain gardens to reduce the flow of stormwater into the marsh. 3, that the driveway will be constructed using pervious materials. And 4, encroachment areas shall be limited to the footprint areas shown on the site plan.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Ms. Switzer-Smalls, thank you. Any discussion? All right, let's bring it to a vote. All those in favor of this motion, please indicate by saying aye and raising your right hand. Aye. Oh, it's unanimous. Very good. Congratulations, sir. Your application has been approved unanimously. And within 10 business days, you will get information from staff letting you know the next steps in the process. Once again, congratulations. Good day. Our next case tonight is case BZA-03-22-00564. And that will be conducted by Mr.
We're going to go ahead and call for the applicant on this one, so he can.
Okay, you did
He's going to
mention
ask
that.
for a withdrawal.
Okay. So is the applicant available? Yes, please come forward.
My name is Joseph F. Bogdan. I live at 3345 Cottage Plantation Road, Johns Island.
Okay.
And I would like to withdraw my request for the variance.
Okay. And tell us why.
Well, I've been informed, and I've seen the document through my lawyer, that there is in fact covenants and restrictions that I was not aware of, and that they will hold me within the 50-foot variance. So there's no point in requesting it, because that is what I have to work with.
Very good. Any questions? Him? Ms. Working?
Yeah, we just want to make sure we put a reasonable time frame on that it gets resolved within 90 days, and also require a survey of that front property line so we know for sure that he's meeting the 50-foot setback, and then that shows the grand trees so we know they're not impacted either by it. So.
You heard all that good work?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we did speak earlier. So.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. All right. So basically, within 90 days, you would need to make sure that you have these corrections done and to get a survey.
Yes, sir. And I'm going to request a permit for the new slab and move the shed to the correct location from where it is now.
Okay. Any questions otherwise?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Case is closed. Okay. Our next case is BZA-03-22-00565, and this will be conducted by Ms. Murray.
Alrighty. BZA 03-22-000565. The applicant and property owners are John and Layla Miraz. The property location is 1737 Oak Estates Way in the Edisto area. The TMS number is 071-00-00066. The zoning district is agricultural residential, and we have a request to reduce the required 15-foot interior side setback by 8.6 to 6.4 at the closest point for an existing accessory building. Here is the section 4.9 of the zoning ordinance showing the 15-foot interior side setback requirement. It's not clicking. Okay. And here is the zoning map showing the subject property and the adjacent property being in AG 10. Here's a zoomed in aerial of the property, zoomed out aerial of the property. The subject property is a total of 2.295 acres, of which 0.942 acres is highland. The property contains 2 existing structures, an unpermitted 2-story accessory building, and an existing unpermitted shed. The existing 2-story accessory building predates aerial imagery, and no permits were obtained before the structure was erected. The applicant purchased the property in 2021. Staff conducted a site visit on April 7th. Here are some photos of the subject property. Here is the accessory building that requires the side setback variance. This is Oak Estates Way. Staff finds that this request may meet criteria 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that it does meet 5, 6, and 7. The Board of Zoning Appeals may approve with conditions, or deny case BZA 03-22-00565. The variance request to reduce the required 15-foot interior side setback by 8.6 to 6.4 at the closest point for an existing accessory building at 1737 Oak Estates Way, and we have no conditions. Here is the elevation of the accessory building. Here's the site plan and the plat. Any questions of staff?
Any more questions? Thank you, Ms. Murray. Is the applicant available? Please come forward, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is John Mirazes. My address is 311 Crestview Lane, Spartanburg, 29301.
Please tell us why we should approve your application, sir.
Okay, we always wanted a property on the marsh, and finally last year we got one, so we bought it. And we wanted to start using it as is, just as a getaway place. What happens is that it has no power, no utilities. So we applied for utilities and we were told we need a survey. So we got a survey. And on the survey, we found out that we have our setbacks are non-conforming. So the only way to go is to see if you can help us to get them permitted, so that we can use it and start enjoying the place.
Very good. Let me see if anyone has a question. Does anyone have a question of the applicant? Thank you so very much for your time tonight, and thank you for your safe trip here, and hope you have one back. Do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Do we have anyone to speak in opposition of this application? Do we have anyone to speak in opposition? Okay, this case is closed to the public. Board members, do we have any questions or do we have any discussion we want to? All right, then I need a motion to either approve or deny this one. Mr. Freeman.
And in regards to case number BZA 03-22-00565, I make a motion to approve this case based on criteria number 1, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. Criteria number 2, these conditions do not generally apply to the property in the vicinity. And criteria number 3, because the conditions, the application of this ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. Criteria number 4, the authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or to public good, and character of the zoning district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Criteria number 5, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall not grant a variance, the effect of which would be to allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in a zoning district, to extend physical or non-conforming use of the land, or to change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. The fact that the property may be utilized more properly should a variance be granted may not be considered grounds for a variance. And criteria number 6, the need for the variance is not the result of the applicant's own actions because the building was already there. Criteria number 7, the granting of the variance does not substantially conflict with the comprehensive plan or the purposes of the ordinance. And I guess our staff had no recommendations. Therefore.
Okay. Thank you for that motion. Do we have a second? All right.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Borkin. Any discussion? Any questions? Then let's bring it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye and raising your right hand. Aye. All right, it's unanimous. It's approved. Congratulations, sir. You got a nice piece of property, and I wish you the best of luck with that. Within 10 days, business days, you'll get information from our staff letting you know the next steps in the process, okay? All right. Have a safe trip back. Okay. Before we move to our next case,
I didn't see anyone waiting. There's no one in there.
yeah, but we have a lot of people. Say again?
You can just ask for anyone
Yep.
who's not sworn in.
At this time, do we have anyone in the audience that may want to speak, that needs to that has not been sworn in, at this time, you would need to swear in. We have Ms. Working to administer the oath. So if you want to speak to this board tonight and you have not been sworn in, this is the time we need to do it, because we have a lot of people that walk in at this time. If you would, please stand and raise your right hand, and Ms. Working would administer the oath.
I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so our next case tonight is case BZA 03-22-00566, and it will be administered by Ms. Working.
Okay.
Jen, I'm sorry, Ms. Working. If you have not signed in, please sign in.
Thank you.
The applicant, Henry Maloney of David Weekly Homes, on behalf of the property owners, Thomas and Corey Tisdale, are requesting a variance to remove 5 grand trees and to encroach more than 25% within the protected area of 2 grand trees for a proposed 29-lot subdivision. The properties associated with this request are located in the low-density residential R4 zoning district in the 10-mile community in the east area of Charleston County. 943 Gadsdenville Road is TMS number 614, ending in 60, and it's 2.4 acres and it's vacant. 935 Gadsdenville Road is TMS number 614, ending in 61. It's 3.23 acres and it contains a single-family home. 927 Gadsdenville Road is TMS number 614-00000062, and it's 3.23 acres and it's vacant. The surrounding parcels are also located in the R4 zoning district in the 10-mile community. On April 19th, 2022, the Historic Preservation Commission voted unanimously to recommend that County Council designate the 10-mile community, which is 439 parcels, as a historic district on Charleston County Historic Designation List. County Council will hold a public hearing on May 10th, 2022, to gather public input regarding the designation request. The Charleston County Planning and Public Works Committee will vote on the designation on May 19th, and County Council will have first, second, and third reading on May 24th, June 7th, and June 21st, respectively. The 3 properties combined are a total of 8.86 acres. The applicant submitted a preliminary plat to combine the 3 parcels and to create a proposed 29-lot Tisdale tract subdivision. The proposed lots range in size from 0.15 acres to 0.36 acres. The average lot size is 0.2 acres. The proposed density is approximately 3.27 dwelling units per acre. The maximum density in the R4 zoning district is 4 principal dwelling units per acre. This is the zoning ordinance requirement for tree variances. Zoomed in aerial and zoomed out. This is the subject properties. Gadsdenville Road. And these are the trees. These photographs were provided by the applicant. So beginning to the left, top left, you have tree number 4, and that's a 43-inch DBH live oak. And DBH stands for diameter breast height. And so they're requesting to encroach upon tree 4. Next to the top right is to remove tree number 9, and that's a 34-inch DBH live oak. Bottom left, remove tree 18, 31-inch double live oak. And bottom right, remove tree 50, which is a 37-inch DBH live oak. Then we have on top left to encroach upon tree 51, and that's a 26-inch red oak. To the right, remove tree 55, and that's a 24-inch DBH live oak. And then bottom left, remove number 57, and that's a 28-inch oak. And please note that each tree may be considered separately for approval conditions or denial. As far as the criteria is concerned, we said that it may not meet 1, 2, 4, and 7. It does not meet 3 and 6, and it meets 5. You can approve with conditions, or deny the request. And like I said earlier, we could look at each tree individually if you wanted to do that. We do have some conditions if you choose to approve the application. The applicant shall contract a certified arborist to devise a treatment plan for tree number 4, and that's the 43-inch grand live oak tree, and tree number 51, the 26-inch grand red oak tree, and the remaining grand trees to be preserved within 40 feet of the disturbed area. The plan shall be reviewed and approved by the planning director and implemented as recommended. 2, if the requested trees, number 4, that's tree 43-inch grand live oak, and number 51, the 26 grand red oak, die within 3 years of BZA approval, the applicant shall mitigate the DBH of the trees by either A, submitting a mitigation plan for review and approval, indicating the installation of canopy trees no smaller than 2.5 inches in caliper, equaling inch per inch replacement. B, by depositing funds into the Charleston County Tree Fund as described in Section 9.26 of the Charleston County Zoning and Land Development Regulations Ordinance. Or C, a combination of both A and B. The allotted mitigation shall be in place prior to removal. 3, the applicant shall mitigate the removal of 154 inches DBH trees by either A, submitting a mitigation plan for review and approval by indicating the installation of canopy trees no smaller than 2.5 inches in caliper, equaling inch per inch replacement. B, by depositing funds in the Charleston County Tree Fund as described in Section 926 of Charleston County ZELDAR. Or C, a combination of A and B. The allotted mitigation shall be in place prior to removal. And finally, 4, the tree barricades shall be installed around all protected trees within 40 feet of a disturbance prior to any future construction pursuant to Section 9.24 of ZELDAR. This is just a list they provided with the impact and the reason for removal, and the plat again, and the existing lots. Questions for me?
Do we have Mr. Borkin?
Ms. Working, how are you?
Good.
I think I've got a pretty good overview of where we are with this. There are 3 currently existing lots, correct?
Correct. This is them. Bleh.
And those,
Here they are.
And those 3 lots each are have the ability to be utilized to put a resident on each of them, a residence or dwelling, correct?
Yes.
So the only reason we're here tonight is because they're trying to turn 3 lots into 29 lots.
Correct.
Which now creates the need to remove 5 trees and encroach on 2 more. So I go back with your criteria. How can this not be the applicant's own actions? I mean, if the property can be utilized as is, and the only reason we're here tonight is because it's trying to be reconfigured to another way, which I can only presume is for profit or to make money, which we can't consider that in granting a variance.
Right.
So I say it's a pretty tall hill to go up tonight. Thank you.
We have anyone else? Any other board member have questions? Thank you, Ms. Working. Now, also, what I'm told by staff, we may have some additional additional documents that we want to submit as evidence. Is that correct, Ms. Working? Possibly?
I'll have to make a motion to accept those if there are.
All right, if they are. So let's be mindful of that, board members. So, is the applicant available? Yes, sir. Please come forward. Please state your name and address for the record, and please tell us why we should approve this application, sir.
Thank you. Ricky Waters, 880 Island Park Drive, Suite 400, Charleston, South Carolina. And I'm actually here on behalf of the applicant.
Is that your business address or your?
Yes, sir. So I'm here on behalf of the applicant. I'm their civil engineer, my team and I. Thanks for hearing our testimony and considering our request as presented tonight. I think just wanted to step through the criterion because I know that's the most important and key element here towards getting this request approved. Criterion 1, with the, I think the biggest thing here is the prevalence of grand trees, of which there are about 63 on the property. We are requesting removal of 5 and impacting 2, but we are preserving 30 grand trees. Also, in an effort to do that, the design that we've done has been tried to be sensitive to tree preservation as far as where we've laid the road, how we've positioned the lots, the size of the lots, as well as we even went as far as to delineate where the homes would be built, so that it was clear what would or would not, in fact, be impacted by this development. Second criterion is talking about if this applies to other properties in vicinity. It's hard to know as far as from a prevalence of grand trees without going on nearby properties. I know there are existing grand trees or grand trees on adjacent properties, but I don't know that there's enough evidence to know if it's as significant as it is on our applicant's properties. The next and third criterion talks about how the lots could be redesigned or increased in size to preserve more grand trees, and I think we've gone through a number of iterations to put forward a design that's as the most sensitive to the grand trees and their preservation. So I would say that we have, in fact, by strictly adhering to this ordinance, that it would unreasonably restrict use of the property, in this case for development. Fourth criterion is speaking to the detriment to the public health, safety, and welfare of neighboring properties. And we believe we do meet this criterion. We don't think that this development would be detrimental to the neighbors. We do think it would enhance the area from the standpoint of, again, the design has been done in a way to nestle within the existing properties and existing trees. There's very little fill introduced on the property, both from where and how the road is placed and designed, as well as the product types of homes that are anticipated to be here, which are elevated, which really drastically reduce any kind of site work, which also allowed us to preserve more grand trees. Criterion 6, as far as this being a result of the applicant's own actions, certainly I get the point about if these properties were left as is, but it doesn't really speak to the fact of whether the properties are left as is or if there's another intended use. And in this case, this is an R4 zoned piece of property, and we are under the maximum density allowed. So in that case, I would say that we're not seeking something higher than the properties are zoned for. Last criterion about being in conflict with the comprehensive plan or purposes of the ordinance. Again, we do not believe we are in conflict with either the comprehensive plan or the ordinance if it were strictly adhered to in this case, because again, we are trying to adhere and uphold the character of the surrounding area and what exists there today. So we do believe that we would meet that criterion as well. And while I have just a couple more seconds, I will say, just reiterate that we have very thoughtfully and diligently worked with staff to try to produce the design that has the least impact possible that we could find to do development that like we're proposing. And again, appreciate your time this afternoon and evening.
Well, thank you. Does anyone have a question of the applicant? Mr. Borkin?
Good evening, Mr. Waters. How are you? I'm pretty straightforward. Granted, you could leave the lots as they were, and they can be utilized. I understand your argument that, well, it says we can have 4 units per acre, but and that may be very well. I would, I guess, contend to you that you could subdivide this property into more than the 3 existing lots and save these trees. The fact that you're trying to get 29 lots, maybe you can only get 15 lots and preserve the trees. If that really is what it comes down to, that trees are limiting how many lots you can cut up, I don't see that as a persuasive argument to this board. For number one, there's no denying that this would be based on your own actions. And it would not be an unreasonable restriction on the property if you can't get 29 lots. Perhaps you get 10, 7. I don't know what the math works out as far as when you go down and design it. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't see how you can overcome criteria 3 or criteria 6. I'm moved to agree with all of staff's recommendations that you don't meet any of the criteria. But for me, those two specific ones I think are very plain and clear. I'd like to hear your arguments on that.
Sure. I think, again, we'll start.
Start with 3.
Yes, sir. Just flipping back to my notes. Again, I think as far as the intended utilization of the property is to develop it in accordance with the comp plan. So I think that would be my response, is that it would unreasonably restrict the ability to do that. I think finding where it would be reasonable as far as how many lots would be reasonable to lose or not to lose. I think in this case, we would contend that any loss, because of the strict adherence, would be unreasonable.
Is it fair to say that if you can't get 29 lots and say you get 10 lots, would that hurt the bottom line or hurt your profitability or on this project? Are they the owners?
I can't speak necessarily to that, but I do believe that going down to that level probably would make this not a viable project.
Okay.
Or it would make it not a viable development.
Ms. Aspill?
Can I just ask you how many lots? I'm sure you've looked at it without taking down the grand trees, except for I think 9 is for your driveway. Is that right?
That is
9 is for the driveway.
Yes, that's for the
And the
main,
other
that's for
ones
the
are
access.
to make more lots. So without leaving 9, not counting the other 4, how many lots can you get? Do you know that?
Well,
I'm sure you've looked at a plan.
sure. I mean, I think we would probably, I would say, if we weren't allowed to remove the other thing, and real quick too, tree 4 is just an encroachment for a shared access to those 2 lots. So assuming maybe that one's off.
Sure. So tell me about 18, 50, 55, and 57. If you were to not get a variance for those, how many lots could you get out of it?
I think
it
we would
seems
lose.
like it's. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, please.
No, please go ahead.
We would lose lot 5 if we couldn't remove tree 18. We would lose lot 16 and lot 18 for tree 50 and 55, respectively.
So you would still get 27. 26.
26.
Yes, thank you.
That's it? Okay.
I guess my concern would be the owner purchased the property in this condition, and so if he purchased it in this condition and knew that there were grand trees on the property and there are rules in the county surrounding that, he'd make a decision to purchase this property, if you have an answer for that.
Yes, ma'am. I know that our client hasn't purchased the property yet, but is under contract. So obviously this is key to that. It's key to them actually purchasing it and key to the seller as well to be able to realize a transaction. So this decision is very critical to that, to the decision for my client to purchase the property or not.
Yes, Ms. Aspill. Wait, well, we're going to come back to you, Ms. Aspill. I want to go to Mr. Freeman.
I was curious whether you talked to the neighbors, about what their intended use of the property was, or?
I believe there were some discussions with the neighbors. I can't speak to what those discussions were, though. We do have the current representative of the current owner here as well that may be able to speak to that, as well as my client, the proposed developer.
Ms. Aspill?
I guess I was going back to my line of questioning and sort of Mr. Boykin's You know, we were talking about a difference of 29 to 10 or 29 to 50, huge difference, but 29 to 26 doesn't seem that large of a difference. Like, do you know if there's like a breaking point for this like deal and it has to be 29? Is like that what you're saying?
I mean, as far
Or like, are you open to compromising on these requests?
Sure. I mean, I think everything is a discussion, and certainly I think would be willing to compromise. You know, what I'm here to try to do is to get approved what we did apply for, but
Sure.
also based on the feedback received tonight, I'm sure there would be some room. You know, I think we definitely would like to get the ability to remove some of the key ones to getting into development. I think that would be something to discuss.
Okay.
I just want to remind the board that the profitability of their venture is not a criteria for the board to consider.
Sure.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question of
Yes.
staff too?
Yes.
Jenny, staff, is there, like, what sort of is the effect? I know you like gave us the blurb at the beginning about the historic district designation. Does that have like any bearing on rules or this case at all?
It will in the future if it was passed, but not necessarily.
I know not today because
Yeah.
it's not in effect.
Yeah,
but
it would have to go.
What are those, I guess?
When there's any change, it would go to the Historic Preservation Board. So they may have to go to multiple boards.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. But they don't have to do that now, but.
And that's coming up here shortly.
If they receive the designation.
Correct. Anyone else have a question of staff or this applicant? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Do we have anyone else to speak in favor? Okay. Please state your name and address for the record, and please tell us why we should approve this application, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Thomas Tisdale Jr. I live at 211 6th Avenue, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. The property owners are my parents.
Pull the mic up just a little bit for me. There you go.
My parents have been in the community for, well, close to 50 years. They bought the property back in the early 70s. They've been active in the community as teachers at Lincoln High School. And they have decided that they want to sell their property. And they should have the right to sell their property. Just as any other landowner, especially landowners in our community, have sold their properties before in the past. There are multiple developments that are actively going on. I don't see why there should be an overall issue of this not being approved. I'm pretty sure the mitigation issues that you all have with the county will be worked out with the contractor. But at the end of the day, if you've got multiple development that are going on right now, why I want to know my parents can't sell their property. They should have the right to do it. It's part of being a citizen here in the United States. And I'm asking that the request that's currently on the table to be approved. Thank you.
Mr. Tisdale, I'm going to respond to your question as the attorney for the board. The board is not deciding whether or not your parents can sell their property. That's between buyers and sellers. The board is deciding whether or not the applicant's application meets the criteria based on the statute.
Understood.
Thank you, sir.
Hold tight. Do we have any questions of Mr. Tisdale? Thank you, sir, for your testimony
thank
today.
you. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Do we have anyone to speak in opposition of this application? Okay, very good. Please come forward. Please state your name and address for the record, and please tell us why we should deny this case.
Hello, my name is Edward Pinckney. I live at 3768 Robbie Glover Road, Owendale, South Carolina.
I'm sorry, you muffled just a little bit. I have a hard time hearing it. Maybe you can just, I'm not going to ask you to remove your mask, but it would just help.
It's all right. So we live at 3768 Robbie Glover Road, Owendale, South Carolina. One of the reasons we are in opposition to this is that in 2016, I believe this board did a historic survey update in which it identified settlement communities that deserve protection, and 10 Mile was one of those communities. Currently, there are 4 subdivisions, like my neighbor Tisdale's mentioned. Some of these subdivisions are coming to our community valued at $900,000 starting price. That has an extreme detrimental effect to the entire community. So I understand the developer's issue about being in compliance with the neighbors, but the only result of that action is to displace the remaining community. So until we are able to save our community, we would ask that we do not cut down the trees and allow another 29 unit subdivision to displace the remaining subdivision. As a result, in the last 3 weeks, we have gathered over 100 signatures that we would like to submit to the board of our community willing to say that we are all in opposition to the removal of the trees and the subdivision.
So, Ed, thank you. Now, since this information has not met the criteria and made it in prior to
Yes,
this
sir.
meeting, we have to get a motion from one of these board members to accept that into our record
Understood.
before we can even consider that. Do we
Is this
have?
the original copy, or do you have extra copies of it?
Those are actually our originals that they all signed. Do we need to make copies and deliver it back to the board?
We'll look at it tonight, and you can.
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to make that motion that we accept that into the record.
Okay. All right, all those in favor to accept this information to our record, please indicate by saying aye and raising your right hand.
Aye.
Aye. It is unanimous, so we will accept that information for our record.
Thank you, sir. And just finally, I know members of my community have driven over an hour to at least be here for the board. Even though many of them won't speak, they would at least like the opportunity to stand, so you'd recognize that they are here in opposition to this removal.
So be it. Let them stand.
Please stand. If you're in opposition to the trees being removed. I'm done, sir.
So you get
Thank
1,
you.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Thank you all.
Hold on.
Yes,
Hold
sir.
on. Go ahead, Mr.
Good evening, Mr. Pinckney.
Good evening, sir.
I'm looking at one of the criteria we are to consider here tonight, and it's criteria number 4, and I'm going to read it to you and ask you if you agree to it and what you might have to offer in support. The authorization of the variance will not be a substantial detriment to adjacent property or the public good, and the character in the zoning district will not be harmed in granting a variance. Do you agree that it would not be a substantial detriment to adjacent property and or to the public good or to the character, or the district would be harmed by granting the variance?
I disagree, sir. I think it would be extremely detrimental to all the neighbors as these trees are removed, as the 29 subdivision comes in. The property owner has a right to sell, but it would also hugely impact the rest of the community.
Would you share with this board a contrast between what this 29 unit subdivision would be compared to how the community exists now?
Absolutely, sir. So typically, if you were to go to the 10 Mile community, each house probably sits on about half an acre. So the idea of that you're going to have 29 homes come in on 3 acres would drive the price of property values up for everyone adjacent to this incoming subdivision. So there's no way that could not have a negative impact on everyone else who remains. And as these subdivisions come in, those of our community who are on fixed income will be forced out. And this community has been together since the 1800s. And if I could just have 30 seconds tell you the history of our community, this was originally Bee's Hive Plantation that existed after Reconstruction, when free slaves bought the plantation that they were actually enslaved on and created an area where 10 Mile could prosper for future generations. So the idea that now that after generations of being there, their descendants would be forced off again is something I think this committee should take into effect, that there is history and there is pride in this community versus a subdivision coming in just for profit.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
One moment. One moment, sir. Does anyone else have a question? Thank you so very much, sir.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else that'd like to speak in opposition of this application? Please state your name and address for the record. Please come forward. We need to get you in that mic. Start over if you don't mind, please, sir.
Lester W. Capers, 1022 Theodore Road. I've lived in the 10-mile community all my life. I'll be 73 this year, this month. My mom and dad both deceased. They would have been 102 this year. That's how many years of history we have with the oak trees that this gentleman is concerned about. Profit. We're here to try to preserve history. Some of us, and that's what we're speaking up for. 10 Mile is a beautiful community, one of the most beautiful community around here. And so for this gentleman that's speaking in terms of profit, money, we don't feel that. When school ended back in the 50s, early 60s, summertime, most people looked forward to going to Isles of Palm and Folly Beach. We couldn't go there. All we had was those oak trees that provided shade for us. Our parents knew where we were, Gadsdenville Road, under the oak trees. They grew up there. So I'm sorry, Mr. Tisdale. Your parents have the right. I'm sorry. Cool. Well, you know, you have the right to sell, but you can't sell our history like that. My sister-in-law goes to court tomorrow in the town of Mount Pleasant because she owns some property in the 6 Mile community. She was given a ticket for $1,085 because she cut down an oak tree in her yard. It may not have been historical, but you can't do that to us. We'd like to preserve our community and everything that's in it. If they want to sell, I got half of my street is Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. The other half was in the county. Mount Pleasant, because those who sold, they zoned into the town of Mount Pleasant as a developer before the houses were even built. So we don't have any problem. They may live in, zone into Mount Pleasant, but they live in the 10 Mile community, and we accept them like that. But the oak trees, they were here before us, and we would like for them to stay after we leave. Thank you.
Hold one moment. Does anyone have a question of this gentleman? Thank you so very much for your testimony. Thank you. Do we have anyone else to speak in opposition to this application? Okay. Please come forward. Please state your name and address for the application for the record, please.
Timothy Askew, 3802 Clarksville Court, Orlando.
Please tell us why we should deny this case.
I'm here. I'm surprised that the developer did not come to the community. That's a big problem. The developer should have come to the community and lay his plans like everybody else did. When you don't do that, you disrespect us. Thank you.
Hold on one moment, Mr. Askew. Does anyone have a question of Mr. Askew? Thank you so very much for your testimony. Yes, ma'am. Please come forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Pearl V. Askew, 977 Gastonville Road, Allendale, 29429. In reference to the requests I oppose, and a basic question when it comes to grand oak trees and what will it do to the 10 Mile community, removing trees and disrupting the environment and the soil. Those trees help with drainage. We're having a problem now. The gentleman spoke of developments that's in the area, and it's in our area, in the 10 Mile community on Gadsdenville Road. Currently, it's a serious problem. Number one, because you can't stop people from selling their property. But as the gentleman who just spoke, these developers do not come to the community to explain or express or even respect the community at large. That may not have anything to do with this particular applicant, but if these trees are allowed to be taken with adding 29 more homes, we will become a detention pond, those of us who are left there. We're having serious problem with drainage, and some of those pipes was there for 50 years at least. Nothing is being done. There's no sidewalks. So we have really, in this historical settlement community, we have a serious problem that's going on. And again, we oppose. The oppositions they already stood, and I'm just reiterating that we seriously oppose this applicant. Thank you.
One moment, please. Do we have anyone else to have a question? I got one.
Yes.
How many grand trees do you particularly have on your property?
On where I'm living, we were living there since the 70s, and we don't have grand trees. No. No. We have some, yeah, we do. I'm sorry. We have one on the front, right by our mailbox. That's a huge tree. Matter of fact, it's almost like a double.
What about the adjoining lots next to you?
They may, but I'm not certain. I know there's a lot of pine. There's some grand trees. We have other properties in the back off of Garden Hill Road. There's wetlands there, as well as some grand oaks.
So where does your house sit in relation to the project? Ms. Working, could you pull the map up?
At 977, there's a parcel in between us.
I'm going to get to the overall map. There you go. So that's the subject property. Where does your property sit?
It's about 3 properties down. I'll only get my glasses on, okay? Point to 977. Put the marker on 977.
These are exact number endings.
Oh.
They're not accurate.
Where's Garden Hill Road? Oh, okay, there's Clarksville Court, and then there is the
There's Seafood
potential-
Road, and there's Robbie.
There's the potential for the with the lines that's coming through. Go back toward the 461.
That's where you live.
Okay, no, come on. What was it? Okay, 461.
Maps are hard. 461, right underneath the property development, is where she lives.
Yeah, 461.
Sorry.
No, that's good. 461.
Okay. So you adjoin the property, right? You abut up to the property, correct? 461.
Yeah, about 461. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That, a matter of fact, that's my daughter's. That's about there. 461. But 977 Gastonville Road. Can you point to it? It goes back towards 17. Back towards 17 off of Gastonville Road.
Yeah.
It's not showing.
Basically, you got Gassonville Road there in front. You got Seafood Road, and then you got Robbie Glover Road.
I know exactly where Ms. Askew lives.
Go ahead and help her.
461 is where
Her daughter.
she lives. Her
Her
daughter
daughter
lives
lives there,
now.
yeah.
Her original house is 059, the first part of the property. So right there is where her original house, her current house is.
Right, my current house.
That's her property right
Yes.
there.
And
So
058, who stays there?
058 is her son,
Craig.
Mr. Craig Askew.
And then 234?
234 is
Mr. Hutchinson.
Yeah, Mr. Hutchinson.
Mr. Hutchinson.
So that's the first part of Garden Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you for that point of clarity, sir. And thank you
Thank
for
you.
helping out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Working. Do we have anyone else to speak in opposition of this application? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address for the record.
Shaw 3802 Clarksville Court. So my property is the property that butts to their house, and I love the trees. Driving up to my home, and that's our neighborhood. That's something that we always remember. Like no other neighborhoods have the trees coming down the aisle like that. It's almost like how it is at Boone Hall Plantation when all the trees come up. Why would you want to get rid of that? It would just ruin the whole ambiance of our neighborhood and character.
That's all.
Okay. Let's see if anyone have a question. Anyone have a question? Sure. Thank you for your testimony. Do we have anyone else to speak in opposition of this application? Okay. Anyone else? Oh, you come. Okay. Very good. Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
My name is Joe Nathan Roberts. I live at 965 Bella Lane, which is a street over. Normally, I wouldn't get up and speak against this as I'm a contractor and construction professional myself, but I've built schools and churches around grand trees and have not been given variances to build schools in North Charleston, West Ashley, and the same with churches and other facilities. Like the young lady before me, these trees create an aisle down Gadsdenville Road, and that would totally impact the scenery that you drive down Gadsdenville Road and straight into the landing that takes you out onto the
Seafood Road.
Across Seafood Road and into the marsh. And it creates a real promenade going down that road. I think that most of the trees in question are along Gadsdenville Road frontage, and that would be a huge impact to the curb appeal and the aesthetic of Gadsdenville Road.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any questions? Thank you so very much for your testimony. Do we have anyone else to speak in opposition to this application? Do we have anyone else to speak in opposition? Okay. All right. So that's closed. So at So at this time, sir, you have time for rebuttal. And if you would, just state your name and address over again.
Ricky Waters, 880 Island Park Drive, Suite 400, Charleston, South Carolina.
Thank you.
We really appreciate everyone's feedback. Like most, we do not, we do not want to remove grand trees or any more than we have to. But just wanted to kind of talk about a few things that were brought up. We will and have been addressing drainage. Obviously, this development has to meet Charleston County stormwater management requirements, which are stringent considering we're also very close to coastal waters. The streetscape along Gadsdenville Road is, besides one tree, is going to be maintained. So there's only one tree that's being requested to be removed along Gadsdenville Road, which when we looked at all the trees that were along our client and our current owner's frontage, it was the best spot to come in to kind of create an entrance. So the vast majority of that streetscape and what makes this community so beautiful will be maintained, even if this were developed as such. Again, if the development is this is zoned for this kind of development too. So minus the tree requests and tree removal we're asking for now, a subdivision like this can be developed on this property by right. So just wanted to make that statement as well.
Okay. Does any board member have a question? Thank you for your testimony today.
Thank you.
So this case is closed to the public. Do we have any discussion? Do we have any discussion? Any questions? Staff? All right, then. While we're still in discussion, I think it would be a detriment to this community. And I don't see how it would meet any of these criteria based on the information that I received tonight. I typically don't speak by sitting in the seat, but I had an opportunity to go in that community and look and see how the impact would make on this community. And it would be a detriment to the community, is my thoughts. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
I
Mr.
concur,
Volker?
Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right, but any
I'm
other?
in agreement. I do think that the person that's looking at potentially buying the property, I do think a lot of times when you're going in these historical communities, it is worth your wait to go and speak with those folks that have been in that community for a long time, particularly when you're talking about moving grand trees. So I don't know if you want to maybe consider withdrawing your case and going back to the drawing board. That's not up for the board to decide.
It's past that now. Yes, Ms. Aspel. Bell.
One question, I guess, and then a comment. If this is denied, sorry, I like to turn my mic off. If this is denied, what's the waiting period? Can you remind me before you could do anything with this property?
It'd be a 1 year to ask for the same.
Okay. And then I guess a comment, just to add my 2 cents, I think something reasonable with maintaining all but the one tree seems reasonable for a driveway. I think a similar development could be done maintaining the majority of the trees that were requested. So, you know, I would also like to see coordination, collaboration with the community, and maybe consider doing something really similar, a little bit more minimal. I think that would be good advice to, you know, consider.
29 lots is a lot.
Any more questions, comments? I need a motion to either approve or deny.
I'll be happy to make a motion to deny, Mr. Chair. In the matter of BZA case 03-22-00566, I move that we deny the case based on criteria, failing to meet criteria 1, criteria 2, criteria 3, criteria 4, criteria 6, and criteria 7. Now, I find that it does not meet criteria 1. That there are extraordinary exceptional conditions pertaining to that particular property. I find that the property is not extraordinary, that it's very much like the property around it. Criteria 2, that it has that these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. I find that they do generally apply to other properties in that community from hearing the testimony of the residents that live there and staff's report. Criteria 3, because of these conditions, the application of this ordinance for this particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict utilization of property. I completely disagree that it would. It's in 3 lots now. It can certainly be built out as it exists. As Ms. Asbell was quite proper to point out, it could be redesigned, reimagined, reconfigured, and still be developed and cut up into lots and utilized without taking those trees. So it does not meet that. Criteria 4, the authorization of variance would not be a substantial detriment to the adjacent property or the public good and character and zoning. We've heard ample testimony of these folks that live there to explain how they would be impacted. I agree there's concerns about flooding and traffic and population density. All those things, I believe, would absolutely contribute to harming the public good, the character, so it does not meet that criteria. Criteria 6, the need for the variance is not a result of the applicant's own actions. It's their plan, it's their design, it's their proposed plat. It's all about their actions. It's a deal that hadn't even been consummated yet. This is a proposed transaction. The property can be absolutely utilized as is without any more subdivision, or it can be subdivided in a proper way that doesn't take these trees. And again, finally, criteria 7, granting of the variance does not substantially conflict with the comprehensive plan. I agree with staff's assertion that it does conflict, that the comprehensive plan designates the properties in the urban suburban cultural community protection, that states the future land use designation is intended to protect and promote the culture and unique development patterns of existing communities and sustain their strong sense of community. The communities in this designation are located in an urban suburban area and are characterized by low density single-family residential development, limited commercial activity. So that is my motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to deny. Case BZA 03-22-0056. This time I'll bring it to the vote. All those in favor to deny this case, please indicate by saying aye and raising your right hand. Aye. It It is unanimous. Unfortunately, sir, your application has been denied.
Okay.
You'll get information from staff, then you know the next steps. Okay, it is 5:30. I know we're making good progress, but at this time, we're going to take a 10-minute recess. And at that time, let's please be back in our seats, okay? My mic has been off the entire time.
Has it?
It has.
to be able to catch up. They ain't gonna get it. Not now.
Where's Miss Working? Who's doing the next case? You ready? Get ready. Okay, we're gonna start back. And our next case is BZA 03-22-00563. And it will be done by the great and wonderful Mr. Joshua Downing.
Good evening, everyone. So, BZA case 03-22-006-568. The applicant and property owner, Mr. Lake Howard of Cedar Point Holding LLC, is requesting a special exception to establish a short-term rental, extended home rental in the low-density residential zoning district at 1768 Wamba Avenue, TMS number 42409000014 on James Island in Charleston County. The subject property and all the surrounding properties are located in the R4 zoning district. The property contains a 1,900 square foot single family residence that was constructed with 4 bedrooms in 2000. The request is to rent all 4 bedrooms for up to 144 days per calendar year. This is a non-owner occupied short-term rental. That is the subject property. The property to the immediate front on the right-hand side is a parcel 189. That is a utility parcel with James Island Public Service District. So you will see in the pictures when we get to it that it is a huge wooden fence, but that is not the applicant's subject property. Staff did conduct a site visit on April 7th, 2022. That is a zoomed in aerial view and a zoomed out aerial view of the subject property. That is the subject property. That is the proposed parking and on the single family residence. That is the James Island Public Service station. And again, that is the immediate front of this parcel. Those are some of the surrounding properties. That is Wamba Avenue. Staff does believe that all three of the criteria for this application have been met. So the Board of Zoning Appeals may approve with conditions, or deny BZA case 03-22-00658, the special exception to establish a short-term rental, extended home rental in the low-density R4 zoning district at 1768 Wamba Avenue, TMS number 42409000014 on James Island in Charleston County, based on the BZA's fact-finding, unless additional information is deemed necessary to make an informed decision. The board may modify any staff recommendations below, including but not limited to the restriction of the number of days for short-term rental. In the event that the board does decide to approve the following, the board does decide to approve this application, the board should consider the four following recommendations by staff. Prior to the zoning permit's approval, the applicant shall complete the short-term rental property owner limited site plan review application process. The use shall comply with all requirements of Article 6.8. The property shall not be used for more than 144 days in aggregate during any calendar year. And again, the board may modify that date, the number of days if they so desire. And the property owner shall be responsible for ensuring that the occupants comply with the Charleston County Noise Ordinance. That is the subject property and their site plan. That is the plat. Any questions?
Does anyone have questions? Staff? Thank you, sir. Is the applicant present? Yes, sir. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and please tell us why we should approve your application, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Lake Howard, 671 Cedar Point Drive, Charleston, 29412. I live on James Island. I believe I meet all the criteria of the special exception requirements. As you can see, the pump station in the front of the house, I think, demeans it as a primary residence, so it's well suited for a rental. It's been a long-term rental for years prior to my purchase, so it's already been a rental. I believe that the buffer around the house, there's a storm drainage easement that runs along the eastern side, and then the northern and western side. There's a large parcel there with one house set well away from it, so it's just the houses in the immediate front. It's a 6-foot privacy fence all the way around the back, so really don't think the impact to the neighbors will be much at all. And that's all.
Okay. Let's see if anybody has a question. Does any board member have a question? Thank you so very much for your testimony today.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else? Do we have anyone to speak in opposition? Anyone to speak in opposition? Case is closed to the public. Board members, any discussion, questions? Therefore, I need a vote, not a vote, but a motion. Ms. Smalls?
I'll make the motion. In the matter of BZA case 0322-00568, I make a motion that we approve this application. Criteria number 1 is it is compatible with existing uses in the vicinity and will not adversely affect the general welfare or character of the immediate community. Sorry, my pages are stuck together. Criteria number 2, adequate provision is made and or exists for such items such as setbacks, buffering, including fences and or landscaping to protect adjacent properties from possible adverse influence of the proposed STRP use, such as noise, traffic congestion, trash, parking, and similar factors. And criteria number 3, the application complies with all applicable rules, regulations, laws, and standards of this ordinance, including but not limited to any use conditions, zoning district standards, and applicable STRP site plan review requirements of this ordinance. This is recommended on approval, but the applicant must meet the board's additional criteria. Number 1, prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the STRP limited site plan review process. Number 2, the applicant shall comply with all requirements of Article 6.8. And number 3, this property shall not be used as a short-term rental for more than 144 days in aggregate during any calendar year. And number 4, the property owner shall be responsible for ensuring that all tenants comply with the Charleston County Noise Ordinance.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Mr. Borkin. Discussion, questions? All right. At this time, I'll bring it to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand and indicate by saying aye. Aye. It is unanimous. Your application has been approved, sir. Within 10 business days, you will get information from staff letting you know the next steps in the process. Once again, congratulations, sir. Good night. Moving right along, our next case tonight is case BZA 03-22-0055, that will be done by Ms. Murray.
All right. We have case BZA 03-22-00569. The applicants and property owners are Alan and Madden Corey, Representative John Goodwin of Stono Construction. The property in question is 1158 Pilot Boy Lodge on Wamala Island, TMS number 157-00000075. The zoning district is Agricultural Preservation AG 15 zoning district. The request is to reduce the 50-foot OCRM critical line setback by 9 feet to 41 feet at the closest point for a portion of the proposed swimming pool. Here is the ordinance section 4.6 that shows the required setback from the OCRM. Here is a zoning map of the subject property showing it as well as the adjacent properties in AG 15. Here's a zoomed in aerial of the property. Here's a zoomed out aerial. The subject property is a total of 143,826,000 square feet or 3.302 acres. The parcel is split by Pilot Boy Lodge. The west side of the property is 57,523 square feet or 1.321 acres, and this is where the single-family residence and the proposed pool will be located. Staff conducted a site visit on April 7th. So here's some shots of the subject property. This is showing the subject property. The picture on the right shows some of the area where the pool will be located. Here's a view of the back of the subject property as well as the side, kind of in the front. Here's Pilot Boy Lodge. Looking at the criteria, staff said that it may meet 1, 2, 4, and 7. We find that it does not meet 3 and 6, and that it meets 5. The Board of Zoning Appeals may approve with conditions, or deny case BZA 03-22-00569. Variance requests to reduce the required 50-foot OCRM critical line setback by 9 feet to 41 feet at the closest point for a portion of the proposed swimming pool. If the board decides to approve, staff recommends the following conditions. 1, prior to commencing construction, silt fencing shall be installed along the critical line. The silt fencing shall be maintained for the duration of the construction. Criteria number 2, the OCRM critical line buffer shall be maintained per section 4.24.7 of the Charleston County Zoning Land Development Regulations Ordinance. Number 3, the applicant shall use stormwater mitigation measures such as the use of rain barrels or rain gardens to reduce the flow of stormwater into the marsh. And number 4, the pool encroachment shall be limited to the footprint shown on the submitted site plan. Here's a survey showing the grand trees on the property. And this is the site plan showing the trees along with the house and the pool. This is the plat. Any questions of staff?
Mr. Borkin?
Just real quick, I noticed in the report, and I'm looking at the, site plan, by just merely shifting the swimming pool 8 feet inward, they would not need a variance, correct? Because you said that the patio isn't allowed, that can go where it is. Just the pool itself has to be outside the buffer, correct?
Correct.
Or setback, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, Ms. Murray. Is the applicant present? Very good, sir. Please state your name and address for the record, and please tell us why we should approve your application, sir.
Good evening. My name is John Goodwin, 2170 Fort Pemberton Drive, Charleston, 29412. So I'd just first like to comment on, I think it was criteria 3 of the unreasonable restriction in the comment that you just asked Mr. Boykin about the flipping the pool and the patio. I think there's a septic system, a low drip septic system that is in that vicinity as well. It's not on the site plan, but I don't know if you want to pull up the site plan. That might be helpful. I can kind of show you generally with the house. Yeah, so the proposed pool location, you can see the side load garage there and the proposed pool and patio. The sewer line from the house to the septic system goes right where the patio, the edge of the patio is currently shown. So if the pool ends up getting flipped, we're going to end up with a sewer line that's going to go right through where the pool will be to the septic tank, which is located kind of right at that 20-foot setback, that little triangle that's kind of created by the driveway in the setback. And then the drain fields actually go along the right property line when you're facing the water to kind of between the setback, the 20-foot setback and the 5-foot DHEC setback. So it's our contention that, while flipping the pool and the patio really isn't feasible, we've got a sewer line that would go right into that area, and that's another reason for the variance request. Regarding criteria 6, own actions, I think the property is unique. It's a large property. When you kind of first hear the acreage, you kind of think, well, why can't we make this work within the existing setbacks? But as staff noted, the private road access does split the property, and really, I think we took a lot of care to place the house in the location it is, so that we didn't have to address and remove any grand trees. Additionally, with the septic system that's located there, and then we've got a buried propane tank on the other side of the house. We did not feel that moving the house at all would be possible and feasible. I think that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Let's see if anyone here on the board has a question. Does anybody have a question? Yes, sir. Yep.
Mr. Goodwin, and
yes,
just
sir.
a point of clarification, you mentioned the sewer line.
Mm-hmm.
You're not talking about the drain field. You're just talking about simply the pipe that go from the house to the septic tank, correct?
Yeah, we have two sewer lines kind of converging right there. And the septic tank is set back, and so it's yes. I'm talking about.
I guess what I'm not following is we're not leaching out any effluent or anything. This is just a conveyance, a pipe going to the set. Why can't that pipe be right beside the swimming pool? What would preclude that from happening?
It could. I think it's just a matter of getting the pipe to the septic tank, right? With everything that's there, the driveway, the grand trees, and everything, and making it work. Yeah. Yeah, it certainly could go next to it.
I mean,
can't go through it though. And
Right.
then-
No, I agree.
Yeah.
But being familiar with swimming pools and them being
Yes, sir.
installed and so forth, I mean, you've got plumbing that's around the swimming pool anyway for the jets and everything to make it go. I just didn't see what would be prohibitive in just putting what was
A new line.
4-inch sewer pipe next to the swimming
nothing.
pool that's
You're-
going to
you're
be either
100%
under
right.
concrete or, I just didn't see, I wasn't following your, I guess, logic on that.
We don't have a whole lot of fall, as you know, the septic tank input is fairly high up and, we've got a slab there. And so we don't have a whole lot of fall to kind of reroute the sewer line. It has to really go kind of straight.
It would have been really nice if you had a survey or a layout of where the sewer line and pipes are.
Sure.
That would have helped this board tremendously in making our decision.
Yeah, yeah. I have that information. I could certainly provide it, obviously, not now.
It's kind of late now, isn't it? You have it with you?
I do have a digital copy, yeah.
Now that won't work. Does anyone else have a question? Thank you, sir. All right. Do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Do we have anyone else to speak in favor? Do we have anyone to speak in opposition of this application? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and please tell us why we should deny this case, sir.
Good evening. My name is John Taylor Jr. I 1406 Hezekiah Road, Watermelon Island, South Carolina. I also serve as the vice chairman of the Watermelon Island Land Planning Committee, and I do have hard copies of some materials. I don't know if you guys are able to accept those of our opposition to this particular request. Sorry.
So once again, we have to add this to our record, and we have to, God bless you. We have to vote to accept this record for evidence.
I'll make a motion that we accept it, Mr. Chair.
Do it? Okay. Y'all helping me out really well. All those in favor of accepting this information into our record, please indicate by saying aye and raise your right hand. Aye. Okay. So it's been approved. Thank you. Please continue, sir.
Thank you. Primarily on two premises of our opposition to this particular request. The first is that with approval, this does compromise the intent, the purpose of the Zeldar Wetlands, Waterways, and Ocean Critical Line Ordinance. And specifically, there are at least three things of the prohibited activities that would occur should just granted be approval. And you can see section 4.24.7, prohibited activities. Should this be approved, the disturbance of soil, except for minimal disturbance associated with planting of shrubs, trees, or landscaping. C, the garden fences or structures, except for permitted crossings, paved, or other impervious surface. All three of those would occur should this approval be granted. That significantly conflicts with the purpose and intent of that buffer area, the setback area, which is a critical, important piece for those, particularly Watermelon residents who take pride as far as protecting that area. The Watermelon Island Land Planning Committee has also noted that this request doesn't meet the criteria. Staff has already shared within their staff review two of those criteria that have not been met within their staff review, which is criteria 3 and criteria 6. But in this materials, you also see that we believe that some of these other criteria may not be met as well. If you look at criteria 7, granting of the variance would conflict with both the comprehensive plan and the ZELDAR. I stated the prohibited activities already in the ZELDAR, but looking at the natural resources and land use elements, those were two specific, being able to protect and enhance the environmental quality. This does present some concern to the board, and so These are outlined for you. I don't want to belabor the night for you all.
Yeah, because your time's out. Your time's up right now. So I was just waiting for you to catch your breath. Hold on. Does anyone have a question of this gentleman? Yes, sir, Mr. Boyd.
Good evening, Mr. Taylor. I guess the only thing I would say is good presentation. I would say that I would disagree with you on the application of Zelda 4.2, 4.7, because that applies to the buffer, which is the first 35 feet. This is dealing with the setback, which is beyond that. So I do see what you wrote down, but I don't think it's applicable in this case because we're not getting within that 35-foot buffer. But it's also all to do with the 50-foot setback. That's all I have there.
Anyone else? Thank you so very much, sir, for your testimony. So now, and anyone else to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone else? Okay. Sir, you have the right of rebuttal, limited to 2 minutes, if you care to. Okay. This case is closed to the public. Board members, do we have any questions, discussion?
I'll offer up some. I guess with absent any additional information, it appears to me that the septic line could go near the swimming pool if it were flipped, as staff mentioned in their evaluation, which makes me agree with their position that it did not meet that particular criteria. But I'll throw that out there for discussion.
Yeah, I agree. I think that line can be moved. It would have been helpful if the applicant had some drawings or something illustrating where exactly the lines were to help defend that. And at this time, he didn't have information where we could actually view it, which would help. I also look at criteria number 6. I think that is a result of the applicant's own decision to put that pool there. So we've approved many like that, but I think it is of their own doing with this.
I would concur with you on 3 and 6.
Yeah. Any more discussion? Hearing none, I would like to get a motion to either approve or deny this case. Y'all looking at one another, somebody do something.
Well, I guess if nobody else will do it, I'll do it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make the motion in the matter of BZA case 03-22-00569 that the application be denied in its failure to meet criteria number 3. I don't believe the application of this ordinance would effectively prohibit, reasonably restrict the utilization of the property. I think staff got it right that the pool and patio could be manipulated where the patio is allowed to be within that setback and the pool isn't. And I think that the sewer line should be able to be run there absent any further information on hand. And I believe that it did not meet criteria number 6, the need for variance as a result of the applicant's own action and the size and placement of the pool and patio.
Okay.
That is my motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Freeman, second. Discussion, question? Let's move it on to a vote. All those in favor of denying case BZA 03-22-00569, please indicate by saying aye and raising your right hand.
Aye.
Aye. And any, you aye? No. Oh, okay. I was getting it. Any opposed? Opposed. It carries. Unfortunately, sir, your case tonight was not approved. You will be getting information from staff indicating what your next steps are. And sorry for your loss, I guess. Okay, we're making good time and good strides. Thank you. Our next case tonight is case BZA 03-22-00570. And this will be presented by Ms. Working.
The applicant and property owner, Eric M. Underwood, is requesting a variance to remove a 30-inch diameter breast height DBH grand live oak tree at 1620 Turns Nest Road, TMS number 331070064 on James Island in Charleston County. The subject property and surrounding properties are located in the low-density manufactured housing subdivision, MHS zoning district in the Riverfront subdivision. The subject property is 50 foot wide and approximately 122 feet long, or 0.14 acres, and contains 2 grand trees and a 16 by 60 foot manufactured home. The applicant would like to remove 1 grand tree, the 30-inch DBH live oak. He plans to preserve the 24.5-inch grand oak and will prune it less than 25%. This is the zoning ordinance requirements. A zoomed in aerial, zoomed out. Here are these here. And some more pictures of the tree provided by the applicant. And the subdivision plot. Staff stated that we think this request meets 1 through 6, and it may meet 7. We didn't have any conditions for this, but you can approve with conditions, or deny the request. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
No, not right now.
Is the applicant available? Very good. Please come forward, sir, and please state your name and address for the record, and please tell us why we should approve your application, sir.
My name is Randy Underwood. I'm representing Eric. I'm his father.
I'm sorry, speak a little louder.
I'm sorry. My name is Randall Underwood. I'm Eric's father, and I'm at 133 Alder Circle in Charleston County. The trailer we've been maintaining for over 7 years, doing maintenance work to the trailer, some repairs, and the floor was rotted out. Prior to purchase, a branch went through the roof, and the original owner fixed the roof because of that damage. A little slow, mind you. And then the shower had to be replaced. Most of the hurricane straps are rotting away, so we need to replace this trailer. He's got a son, 2 years old, and we want to build a safe home for him, period. We want something safe. So we want to windproof, weatherproof, maintenance-proof, all these things we want for him. This is his primary and only home. We just want it done right. When the tree, you can see the branches hang over the house, and that's a concern for him because that main branch you see is right over top of the child's bedroom. So he just wants this tree taken out. And in order to take those branches out, we're taking out a growth of the tree that we think will kind of unbalance that tree. There is another tree next to it. I don't think we have to prune it at all. There was mention that we're going to prune it 25%. I don't think we have to do that. That tree's fine. I don't think it will be in the area that we're building. And we're only building a 1,200 square foot home. But that tree is right there. I mean, it's right in the middle of the property, and you can see how it hangs over the house. And anything we do to lift the house to get within flood zoning and any new, I don't know, some of the new requirements in the build in that area. But even the builders have said, we're going to take this tree down to do what we want to do. So I just ask that you would do it. I just want a safe home and for my child. There's a tree in the front yard and a neighbor. This tree is in a grouping. I don't think losing this one tree will be a big impact. And we're willing to do whatever as far as contributing to any fund, adding trees to the property. I'd have no problem with that whatsoever. None. So.
Very good, sir. Hold on one moment. Do we have any questions? Mr. Underwood? Yes, sir, Mr. Borker.
Good evening, Mr. Underwood. How are you, sir? Do you know what year manufacture the current mobile home is?
It's 30 years old.
It's 30 years old. Okay.
Okay.
I asked that question because in doing my research on this one, because I guess a lot of things come into factor. The life expectancy of a single wide trailer is somewhere between 30 and 55 years, I guess, depending on the conditions of maintenance, and all that. Do you have it on good authority that if you have this trailer's become inserviceable for the most part, or practicable, I guess I'm saying, by the amount of restoration and gutting it and
Well, we had to tear the entire back half of the bathroom out to put in a shower. In doing so, and just tearing the floor up, we also discovered underneath the tub, which in that bathroom was in a similar condition, but not as bad. And that's a bigger project, and we just didn't do that. I can't really do a lot of the maintenance for him because of my job, but he's had contractors come in and do some work, do some things like that. I just think it's becoming a problem. We had to rebuild the whole side of the house when we first got it because of where the roof was damaged, and they let it go. It rotted down the wall, down to one window, and took out the floor. We didn't know about the floor until I was into the window, and I'm like, they did half the living room floor. And they did such a poor job that we had to tear the carpet up and do some additional work on that. And that's still kind of, they had used particle board, things like that, which at this point, the trailer's only this far off the ground, so there's a moisture issue. So almost the entire floor is showing like moisture damage. The particle board's kind of expanding.
Let me follow this up with the next question. If you have to replace the trailer, do the new FEMA requirements require it to be elevated higher than it is currently?
I think by another 2 feet. Was it 2 feet?
Yeah, I think so.
That's my fact checker.
So the replacement needed to come into compliance with the
thing I talked to them about too is even if they did nothing, they would still need to trim this tree so much, it would be over the 25%. They would still be at this board. Okay. So I thought they should ask for a newer home and for the full removal, because no matter what, they'd have to come to this board for either the over 25% encroachment or the full removal. So, yeah.
Ms. Brooks, did you go out to look at this tree by chance or no? Okay, I just want to ask that question. All right.
It's an ugly tree.
What, did you have an arborist look at it by chance?
What's that?
Did you have an arborist come out and look at the tree?
When we bought the property originally 7 years ago, he was so concerned about these branches, and they were so close to the roof of the house. We did have it trimmed, or they've already done a 25% trim on this particular tree. And then they did some on the neighbor's tree as well. So because it kind of all draped over the house so much. So.
All right. Anyone else?
Got it. It's number.
Thank you so very much, sir, for your testimony.
And I'll show you pictures of my grandson if you want to see them. I'm just kidding.
Does anyone else want to speak in favor of this application? Do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Do we have anyone to speak in opposition? Anyone to speak in opposition? This case is closed. To the public, questions, comments? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I need go right ahead.
Oh, yeah, I do it.
Paper, scissors. Go ahead, Mr. Freeman.
And in the matter of case BJ 03-22-00570, criteria number 1, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. Criteria number 2, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. 3, because of the conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. The authorization of criteria number 4, authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the zoning district will not be harmed by granting of the variance. Criteria number 5, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall not grant a variance, the effect of which would be to allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in a zoning district to extend physically on a non-conforming use of land, or to change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. The fact that the property may be utilized more properly should a variance be granted may not be considered grounds for a variance. Criteria number 6, the need for the variance is not the result of the applicant's own actions. And number 7, criteria number 7, granting the variance does not substantially conflict with the comprehensive plan or the purpose of the ordinance. We don't think we didn't have any staff recommendations.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Ms. Small, second. Any other discussion, questions? I think this application is really good. I think it needs to be approved. And, just like Mr. Borkin said, I got a couple of mobile homes myself. After about 30 years, it has met its life expectancy. And anytime someone can take a chance to make improvements on it or just to remove it, it'd be to their best benefit to even just remove it because it gets too costly and we're not supposed to consider that. But it's just going to continue to go down based on what's actually in those mobile homes. That's just my 2 cents I want to throw in there. So let's bring it to a vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye and raising your right hand. Aye.
Aye.
And it is unanimous. Thank you. It has been approved, sir, within 10 business days. You will get information from staff letting you know the next steps in the process. Once again, congratulations and have a good night. Our next case is case BZA 03-22-00571. They'll also be conducted by Ms. Workin.
The applicant, Malcolm Glenn of Live Oak Consultants LLC, representing the property owner Vincent Marino of 9801 ND Highway 78 LLC, is requesting a variance to delay installation of the required 10-foot perimeter landscape buffer adjacent to a railroad easement at 7219 Corporation Way, and that's TMS number 39000000457 in the north area of Charleston County. The subject property and adjacent properties to the north, west, east, and southwest are located in the industrial IN zoning district. The adjacent properties to the south off of Dusty Lane are located in the low-density residential R4 zoning district. The applicant is currently in the site plan review process for a proposed chassis yard. And this is the requirements in the ordinance, zoomed in aerial, some pictures of the railroad easement, and Commerce Center Road and Corporation Way, and a couple of photographs that were provided by the applicant. Any more notes? Regarding the approval criteria, we stated that it meets 1, 2, and 3, 5, and 7, and it may meet 4 and 6. And we do have 2 possible conditions. If you choose to approve, you can approve with conditions, or deny the application. 1, prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the site plan review process. 2, the applicant shall submit a landscape plan for planning staff's review and approval that at minimum meets the buffer type A landscaping requirements to be installed if and when the railroad is improved. Do you have any questions?
Does anyone have questions of staff? Thank you, Ms. Working. Is the applicant available? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, and please tell us why we should approve your application, sir.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Jake Serrano with Live Oak Consultants. I'm the civil engineer working on the project for Charleston Blast and Paint. A similar application was submitted on Building 3 adjacent to Lot 5 when Charleston Blast and Paint started their operations about 2 years ago. In that a variance was granted on that piece of property. So this particular piece of property, which is identified as Lot 5, is also requiring the same variance, where the railroad hasn't been used for some time and vegetation has grown in that 60-foot railroad right-of-way, and basically the vegetation is acting as a screen or buffer for the adjacent residential lots adjacent to the property. So we are asking for the same variance on this particular lot, the chassis yard, because the owner are now looking to expand their operation and is looking to park chassis in that particular yard. And they're also looking to, because of their business growth, they're also looking to upfit an adjacent building on site. So it's a good problem for the county, having a business that is growing and will bring more employees for the county. So if you have any questions about the variance, we're not looking to not do the buffer. We're just looking to delay it if in case the railroad comes.
How long are you looking to delay?
We
Do
don't.
do you have any idea?
We don't. There's a particular property that was sold by the original owners to Landmark Construction. I think that's lot 4, and that railroad is only being retained because of that, but they don't have any plans at this point. So it hadn't been used for over 30 years, and we just don't want to speculate when. But if it does come, I mean, we will establish that 10-foot buffer as required by planning.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Anyone have a question? What's the condition of the railroad tracks there? I know it hadn't been used in 30 years, but
Yeah, they removed all the spur that's there. So I mean, there's just trees, large trees on it. And in fact, we did a survey and provided that to staff.
Yeah.
I think we also provided some photos.
Yeah, I see some rails that are down there. Didn't look like I'd want to ride on, but it could be for. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Thank you so very much for your
Thank you.
testimony, sir. Well, we only have 3 more people in the back here. Anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in opposition? It's closed to the public. Questions, discussion? I'd like to get a motion to approve or deny someone.
I can make it. In the matter of BZA case 0322000571, I make a motion that we approve this matter. Based on criteria number 1, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to this particular piece of property. Criteria number 2, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. Criteria number 3, because of these conditions, the application of this ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. Criteria number 4, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the zoning district will not be harmed by granting of the variance. Criteria number 5, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall not grant a variance, the effect of which would be to allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in a zoning district, to extend physically a non-conforming use of the land, or to change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. The fact that the property may be utilized more profitably should a variance be granted may not be considered grounds for a variance. Criteria number 6, the need for the variance is not the result of the applicant's own actions. Criteria number 7, granting of the variance does not substantially conflict with the comprehensive plan or the purpose of the ordinance, and the approval is based on accepting the staff recommendations. And there are 2 recommendations here. Number 1, prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the site plan review process. And number 2, the applicant shall submit a landscape plan for planning staff's review and approval that at a minimum meets the buffer type A landscaping requirements to be installed if and when the railroad is improved.
Thank you. So we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Zasbell? All right, let's bring it to a vote. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye and raising your right hand. Aye. It is unanimous. Congratulations, sir. Your application has been approved. Within 10 business days, you'll get information from our wonderful staff, letting you know the next steps in the process. I have a question before we move on. Is it typically that they have a 60-foot easement on railroads?
50 is.
Say again?
50 is typical.
50, okay. Last case for tonight. We've done well. Case BZA 03-22-00572. And Ms. Workin is taking care of that one as well.
Okay. The applicant, Becky Fenno of Fenno Architecture LLC, on behalf of the property owners, Pamela and Carrie Browning, is requesting a variance to reduce the required 50-foot OCRM Office of Ocean and Coastal Resource Management, to reduce the required 35-foot OCRM critical line buffer, and to reduce the required 15-foot interior side setback at 7283 Allendale Landing Road, and that's TMS number 683-000072 in the east area of Charleston County. More specifically, the applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the required 50-foot OCRM critical line setback and to reduce the required 35-foot OCRM buffer to the OCRM critical line at the closest point for an existing unpermitted cottage and decks, and to reduce the required 15-foot interior side setback by 4 feet to 11 feet for an existing accessory structure, the pump house shed. The subject property and adjacent properties are located in the agricultural AGR zoning district. The Francis Marion National Forest is located across from the creek from the subject property, zone resource management RM. The 4.65 acre subject property contains an unpermitted 888 square foot cottage, unpermitted decks attached to the cottage, a pump house, shed, and a permitted barn. Per Charleston County records, the cottage was constructed in 2000 but not permitted. Charleston County adopted required setbacks and buffers from the critical line in 2001. So this photograph, you can see all the structures that are requiring the variance: the cottage, the deck, and the shed. This is the zoning ordinance requirements and the zoomed in aerial. Zoomed out. That's the cottage and the decks, and then the little pump house shed. And here are some photographs that the applicant provided that are in your packet. Regarding the approval criteria, we stated that it meets 1, 2, and 3, 5, and 6. It may meet 4 and 7. Yeah, never mind. It meets 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6, and it may meet 4 and 7. If you choose to approve the application, we have 2 conditions to consider. 1, zoning and building permits shall be obtained for the cottage, decks, and pump house shed. 2, the encroachment areas for the cottage, decks, and pump house shed shall be limited to the footprint areas shown on the submitted site plan. Additions to the existing cottage will require approval from the BZA. So, do you have any questions? This is the survey. We got site plan and floor plans and plat.
Any question, board members? Thank you, Ms. Working. Yeah, it'd be nice to move up. We'd be safe to assume that you guys are the applicants.
We are the applicants.
All right, one at a time. Please state your name and
Yes.
name and address for the record, please.
Becky Fenno of Fenno Architecture of 936 Pine Hollow Road in Mount Pleasant. And I'm here on behalf of Pamela and Carrie Browning. And first, we want to thank the staff for coming out and doing a site visit and the comprehensive review of the property. The structures in question were built in 2000 prior to the establishment of the OCRM line and the OCRM buffer. And in 2015, the owners saw the property listed on Airbnb and went and stayed in it and fell in love with the property. It was just as it is today, with the cottage, which is has a kitchen, a bathroom, a small living area. It has heating and air, full electricity, and a septic system. So all of that was in place in 2000. And they fell in love with it, and they purchased the property. And they, as we say, they have done nothing since then but kind of clean up the paperwork on the property. They've established the proper address. They've notified the tax department that of the structures that are on the site and put the electrical service in the proper name. About a year ago, they approached me to add on to the small cottage. This is their primary residence. They love living there. There is a letter of support from their neighbor who was thrilled to have a primary resident living there. And so about a year ago, we started to talk about adding on to the cottage so they could live more comfortably and have the grandchildren and everybody come and enjoy the site. And that's when I came into the zoning office, and we were taken aback to find out that there were violations on the property. And so we had the property surveyed. We moved forward with making this application to basically clean up and to bring the property into compliance. And then our next step will be to work with the zoning staff on how and where do we add some additional living space. Pam?
Just one at a time. I'm sorry, one at a time. We got to finish with you first. Any questions of the architect? When did they purchase the property again?
2015.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Would you guys like to speak in favor of your application? Oh, that would help. Let's do that. So would you please rise? Sorry. Are you going to speak?
I'll just say,
No.
The person who just spoke needs to be sworn.
Yes.
yeah, she's the one
Yes.
that hasn't been sworn in, sorry. We were here.
Just all three of you stand up anyway. Oh, you did? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I apologize. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't hear. I apologize.
Yeah, this is our it's a slice of heaven.
Name and
Oh,
address.
Pamela Browning, 7283 Alwyndaw Landing Road, Alwyndaw, South Carolina, 29429. So we saw this on Airbnb and had the opportunity to rent it and did fall in love with it. But I will say it's 880 square feet, and it doesn't have a bedroom. It has a little loft, which now serves as a master walk-in closet. So my husband and I today, we have a day bed that makes out into a king bed in the living area of the cabin. So when the grandkids come, it's really tight. I tell everybody, though, we can make out the couch into a king bed or a queen bed. We've got the day bed that makes out, and then we can have a tent outside. But our real desire is to get this into compliance so that then we could add on some additional, hopefully, bedrooms. And we do have great neighbors, and a letter of support with Sally Perry is our next door neighbor. And it's a great place. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you.
All right. There's no one else in here, and there's no one else to speak in opposition. So this case is closed to the public. Board members, do you have any questions? Do you have any discussion? Any? So this last case for today, I'd like to get a motion to either approve or deny this particular case. Yes, ma'am.
So in BZA case 0322000572, I'd like to make a motion to approve this variance based on the following criteria. One, that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the piece of property. Two, that these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. 3, that because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to this property would prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. 4, that the authorization of this variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good. 5, that the variance does not allow use that's not permitted in the zoning district, nor does it extend physically a non-conforming use of land or change the zoning district boundaries. 6, the need for the variance is not the result of the applicant's own actions. And 7, that granting of the variance does not substantially conflict with the comp plan or the purposes of this ordinance. And then 2 criteria from staff. 1, that zoning and building permits shall be obtained for the cottage decks and pump house shed. And 2, that encroachment areas for the cottage decks and pump house shed shall be limited to the footprint areas shown on the submitted site plan. Additions to the existing cottage will require approval from the BZA.
Thank you. We have a second?
Second.
Minister Borkin, thank you so very much for that second. Discussion? I'll ask for the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye and raising your right hand. Aye. It is unanimous. Thank you. Your application has been approved, and within 10 business days, staff will give you information, letting you know the next steps in the process. Once again, congratulations and good night. Thank you all. All right. Last but not least, Ms. Workin, is there anything that you have for this august body?
So we have right now for June 6th, 1 old business case and 7 new business cases. So I'm thinking we're probably okay to go back to the 5 o'clock. Does that sound good?
You don't know of any of them that might have a big crowd or anything? Or any large opposition?
The old business is that Osirham Bridge, but Osirham hasn't even made a decision on it right yet. So I'm hoping to have more information about that soon to figure out what to do with that application.
You received the information I sent you about it being in the Ace Basin
Yes.
Task Force area.
Basically, it sounds like DHEC requested more information from them, and they haven't heard anything back. But
So we may not even hear that.
I really don't know. But it has to be scheduled just because they maxed out their 9 days. I think though they could technically come back and ask for another 9 days if needed. I don't know. But that's really, I don't think any of the 7 are that I can remember. Yeah, not off the top of my head. And then just remember to do your training.
Do you have any scheduled training, or we're still doing it all online?
It's still all online.
okay.
Self-study, self-sign off.
Works for me.
Self-paced. You can do it at midnight. You can do it at noon. You can do it
Just
on
get it
Saturdays. I'm tired.
Well, I do want to thank each and every staff member for all the hard work and dedication that you present each and every day, and making it easy for this board to present and operate here. And I know sometimes we could probably take it lightly, but I don't. And I just thank you for everything that you do and your level of professionalism. So thank you. And to our attorney for keeping us straight too. He didn't kick me yet, but I'm waiting for the kick.
We just
So
need to figure out, a solution that we're not in a bind like this again.
a bind how?
Almost not having a quorum. Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
So.
Well, I'm just thankful you over COVID, and you.
That's the negative. I'm good.
So board members, the only thing I can say is just try to attend as many meetings as you can, and I do
Rearrange
appreciate you getting the
schedules
feedback.
or-
Yeah.
Anything you could do to rearrange schedules. I mean, I understand that sometimes some of these work trips it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming with these out-of-state ones especially, it's already been planned, but anything that could be rearranged just for this one day.
Yeah.
It's good. Thank
All
you.
right. Well,
Mr. Gordon,
nothing else.
thank you for getting us through that $5 grand. I wasn't touching that. Thank you for getting us through that.
It's an unenviable task, I'll say that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Please
But I
drive
kept
safely.
thinking, why do they want to put 29 lots? And they only have